They all hit your triceps the exact same way, but they're not built the same, not even close. And for some reason, people have a real emotional attachment to these bars, like real love, real anger, and real loyalty. And I get it. These brands become part of people's identity. But let's be honest, we're talking about freaking cable attachments. These are our opinions, and we're going to show you how and why we're getting to them.
And honestly, we don't even agree on all of them. We've got different hand sizes, different preferences, different feels, just like all of you. If you've ever gone down the rabbit hole on attachments, you are not alone. Subscribe and go down the next one with us too.
They all hit your triceps, and because they rotate, you can use them for rows too.
Functionally, they all do the exact same job.
So here's what we're actually looking at. This is the American Barbell rotating V-bar. This is basically the OG when people talk about rotating V-bars. You know, whether it technically is or not, this is the one everyone thinks of. Feels like a commercial gym piece. Now this is the Rogue rotating V-bar. This is the newest iteration of this style. Solid build, workhorse feel, middle of the road in price and quality. Then there's the 4.6 Black Widow. Heavier, thicker grips, premium build, most expensive of the three.
They all do the same movement, they just don't feel the same in your hands.
Same exercise, same muscle, totally different build quality. And just to be clear, flat bar versus V-bar doesn't really change what part of your triceps you're training, it just changes how your wrists feel, how stable you are, and how much force you can put into the movement. One thing we should explain, because people are gonna see the numbers and get confused. We use percentages for the handle angles instead of degrees. So for us, 180% is a straight line, totally flat. As the angle increases, the percentage goes down. The smaller the number, the more angled the handles are. It's just an easy visual system so people can compare all three without mixing measurement styles. And we used Rogue's standard 90-degree setup for this. That's how it comes out of the box. We do have the 70-degree plates, but that's a separate purchase in a different configuration, so we didn't use it for this comparison. The goal wasn't to optimize one bar. It was to compare them as they're actually sold and commonly used, so it stays apples to apples across all three. You know, for more clarity, the actual handle angles came out to American Barbell at 140%, Rogue and 4.6 are both at 134%, and so people understand what that means. 180 is straight. The closer you are to 180, the flatter the bar is. That means the American Barbell is flatter than the other two, and the Rogue and 4.6 are much more angled. The reason that matters is simple. Hand angle changes your wrist position, and wrist position changes how much force you can actually put into the movement. The flatter the bar is, the more your wrists have to compensate. The more angled it is, the more natural your wrists stack, and when your wrists stack better, you can lock in harder, feel more stable, and move more weight efficiently. So it's not just a number, it directly affects comfort, control, and how strong you feel on the movement. One thing that matters first, we weren't even holding these the same way on rows. Perrin was pulling with the bars flat, and I was pulling with them more with an M shape.
Yeah, I was keeping them flat when I pulled.
And that alone changes how they feel. On rows, the American Barbell actually felt really solid to me. The tighter rotation and the flatter handle angle made it feel locked in when I held it closer to the top.
For me, it was more about the weight. It's super heavy, and the longer handles made me naturally move my grip closer to the end instead of the middle. And I definitely noticed the difference.
You know, I don't love pulling on a 25mm handle, but in terms of stability and control, the AB felt tight and predictable on rows.
I didn't feel like I was fighting the movement, but I did feel the weight of the unit more than the others. Now, on the Rogue, I had to shift my hand position partway through because holding it straight up didn't feel right in my hands. The aggressive knurling was still bothering me from the first time I used it, and even though the smaller framing felt okay. Once I adjusted, I had to change my grip to make it work.
You know, the Rogue should have felt great on rows. On paper, it makes sense, but I kept fighting the rotation while pulling. I could do the movement easily, it just didn't feel good doing it.
Now with the 4-6, I didn't have to make that shift at all. I could hold it where I wanted, in the middle of the bar, without it feeling off. And I didn't have to move it out towards the end like with the AB.
You know, and for me, the 4-6 matched the American Barbell in pulling feel. But the 35mm handles made it feel much better to pull on.
It felt the most natural, the most comfortable, and the smoothest on rows. And I didn't notice the heaviness on the rows the way I did on the pushdowns.
You know, so for pulling feel alone, 4-6 first, American Barbell second, and Rogue trailed a third. So when you actually put all three side by side and use them back to back, the differences become really obvious. Not in what they do, but in how they feel. The American Barbell just feels harder to move weight with for me. It's solid, it's tight, it's built like a commercial piece, but the grip size, the flatter angle, and the way it sits in my hands just doesn't let me lock in. Between the smaller diameter, the more passive knurling, and the angle, I can't generate force the same way. The same load just feels heavier.
I actually like the knurling on the American Barbell. It feels grippy without being aggressive, and it feels solid in my hands. But it doesn't feel smooth. It takes more effort to rotate, and it feels more rigid in movement. It's sturdy, but it's not fluid.
And that's exactly it. It feels like a commercial tool, heavy-duty, utilitarian, built to get used and abused, but not refined. It's not trying to be pretty, it's not trying to be smooth, it's just meant to survive. You know, and the Rogue sits in the middle for me. I like the handle diameter, I like the angle, and I like the knurling, but the lateral side-to-side play in the center hub just kills the premium feel. You don't really feel it in the reps, but you feel it in the build, and when you handle it, when you rotate it, and when you pick it up.
True, it doesn't feel bad when you're actually doing the movement. It just doesn't feel tight when you handle it.
And then when you get up close and you see the tooling marks, the finish imperfections, the divots in the center section, it just doesn't look great close up.
And it just doesn't feel refined.
Functionally, it works great, but the build and finish don't feel premium. And then the 4-6 is just on a different level. The grip size, the angle, the balance, and the finish, everything about it just lets me lock in harder, move weight more easily. It feels smoother, more stable, more controlled, and I can apply force better than with the other two.
It doesn't bite you at all. It just moves. It feels easier to use, more natural in the hands, and more confidence inspiring.
You know, and honestly, both of us felt the same thing. The American Barbell allows the least amount of force production, the Rogue sits in the middle, and 4-6 just feels flawless in every movement. Same exercise, same weight, same setup, totally different experience depending on which one you're holding.
And just to put real numbers on it, the American Barbell handles are 25mm in diameter and 7.5 inches long. The Rogue handles are 32mm in diameter and 6 inches long, and the 4-6 handles are 35mm in diameter and 6.5 inches long. For weight, Rogue is about 3.5 pounds, American Barbell and 4-6 are each about 6 pounds. The American Barbell is $75, the Rogue is $95, and the 4-6 Black Widow is $229 shipped. Literally, $75 to $95 to $229. The AB is the cheapest, but not so much cheaper than the Rogue that I'd buy it over the Rogue. The Rogue wins on cost compared to the AB. The 4-6 is premium with a premium cost, and it's the one I'd buy again and keep. When you own all three, you can see exactly where the money went. It's balanced, it spins freely, it self-centers, it just feels different.
No, and if you like passive knurling or want the cheapest option, go American Barbell. If you want options, colors, and don't care as much about fit and finish, you go Rogue. And if you want the best feel, the most comfort, and the most force production, and cost isn't an issue, you go 4-6. But at the end of the day, your triceps aren't getting any bigger or smaller based on which one of these you're using. That comes down to feel, build quality, and cost, not results.
So if this was helpful and you want more real reviews like this, subscribe and hang out with us. We like to keep it honest.